In the final seconds of a Taekwondo championship match, the score is tied. The crowd is electric. One fighter stands motionless, calm, eyes locked, breathing steady. While everything around him screams chaos, he looks like he's just getting started. This isn't luck. It's not instinct. It's the result of mental training just as intense as any physical drill. In this video, we're going deep into the psychology of a Taekwondo champion. How do elite fighters stay composed in high-stakes moments? What mental techniques do they rely on when the pressure peaks? And how is mental resilience built into Taekwondo from the very beginning? Let's explore the calm inside the storm. In Taekwondo, physical power is obvious. It's in the snap of a roundhouse, the impact of a spinning hook, the speed of a counter kick. But what you can't always see is the internal battle that defines a champion. The truth is, when two athletes of equal skill step onto the mat, victory usually comes down to who can control their mind, who can stay clear-headed when their game plan is disrupted, who can adjust when they're behind on the scoreboard, and who can resist the temptation to panic when time is running out. This is where the psychology of a champion reveals itself, not in highlight reels, but in the calm between movements. The way a fighter resets after conceding a point, the stillness in their eyes before a sudden attack, the discipline to wait for the right moment instead of forcing one. Mental strength in Taekwondo isn't just a mindset, it's a trained skill. It's built through repetition, pressure, and experience. Champions don't just stay calm, they've practiced staying calm. They've visualized high-pressure situations hundreds of times before the real one. They've lost matches in practice just to learn how to mentally recover. They've sat through quiet moments in training just to learn how to listen to their breath when the crowd noise disappears. Even the rituals of Taekwondo, like bowing before a match or the silent pause before a pumse pattern, train emotional control. These aren't traditions for show. They're built-in mechanisms to slow the mind and sharpen focus. And when the stakes are highest, like in an Olympic final or a world championship, it's not the fighter with the biggest kicks that usually wins. It's the one who doesn't flinch, the one who sees clearly through the case, the one who responds instead of reacts. So the next time you watch a match and wonder how a fighter landed the perfect counter in the final second, look closer. Chances are we saw it wasn't just perfect timing. It was perfect control. The body may deliver the knockout, but the mind decides when to strike. The hidden half of training. When people think of Taekwondo, they picture flying kicks, fast footwork, and full contact clashes. But at the elite level, physical preparation is only half the story. The other half happens inside the mind. Champions know that adrenaline is a double-edged sword. It can boost performance or sabotage it. To perform under pressure, athletes train their minds like they train their bodies, through repetition, strategy, and control. Let's break it down through real scenarios and common mental tools used by world-class competitors. Case study, the final round mentality. At the 2019 World Taekwondo Championships, a match between two top-ranked fighters reached the final round tied. Both had trained equally hard. Both were physically sharp, but one walked away with the gold, not because of better technique, but because he kept his composure when the match slipped into overtime. Instead of panicking or rushing, he slowed his breath, tightened his stance, and waited for the opening. The other fighter, slightly more anxious, overcommitted, and got countered. That tiny mental edge made all the difference. Controlling the internal storm elite. Taekwondo athletes face several pressure points: the crowd, the clock, the scoreboard, and their own expectations. But none are as disruptive as the internal voice of doubt. To manage that, athletes use a blend of mental conditioning strategies. Pre-performance routines. Before every match, champions follow strict mental checklists, breathing sequences, visualizations, or self-talk routines. These aren't random. They create consistency, especially when emotions rise. Visualization. Many fighters rehearse entire matches mentally before they even begin. They imagine different scenarios, getting knocked down, making comebacks, delivering that final kick. By doing so, their brain treats these simulations as real experience. When pressure hits, They've already been there. Breathing control. Shallow breathing signals stress to the brain. And so in breaks between rounds or before stepping onto the mat, athletes use diaphragmatic breathing, slow, deep breaths to reset the nervous system. It's simple but powerful. The role of routine in staying grounded, top-level Taekwondo training camps don't just focus on kicks. They integrate psychological drills into the daily schedule. Meditation, journaling, and even controlled exposure to stress, like training under simulated match conditions, help athletes normalize pressure. The point isn't to eliminate pressure. That's impossible. The goal is to make it familiar. One Olympic athlete once trained to crowd noise and flashing lights just to simulate the distraction of the finals. Another deliberately wore heavier gear during practice to create discomfort, forcing himself to stay focused no matter what. Coach and corner dynamics. During a match, the coach's voice becomes a lifeline. But great coaches don't just shout tactics, they reinforce calm. They remind the fighter of their plan, not their fear. Some teams even rehearse communication cues before matches. A signal for slowing down, one for aggression, one for defense reset. This shared system helps the athlete refocus instantly. No thinking required. Between rounds, the 60-second break is less about rest and more about recalibration. Coaches often use that time to reset their athletes' breathing, posture, and thinking, not just to fix technique. Recovery from mistakes. What separates a seasoned fighter from a rising one isn't perfection, it's recovery speed. Mistakes happen. The real test is what comes next. In high-stakes matches, a single penalty or missed opportunity can spiral into panic. But mentally trained fighters know how to reframe mistakes. Instead of thinking, I messed up, they immediately shift to, what now? This rapid recovery mindset is trained through post-match analysis and mental scripting. After every match, athletes break down not just what happened, but how they felt in the moment. They identify thought patterns that threw them off, then build responses to those moments for next time. And Taekwondo's built-in mental training. Interestingly, Taekwondo itself, with its traditional structure and discipline, builds psychological strength over time. From the first belt level, students are taught to bow, breathe, and focus before action. The Poomsae patterns demand memorization under pressure. Sparring requires controlled aggression. Even belt testing simulates performance anxiety. By the time a practitioner reaches black belt, they've faced dozens of these mini-pressure environments. That's no accident. It's a long game of mental toughening. Toward peak pressure moments, the Olympic stage. Let's return to the biggest stage, Olympic competition. Matches here last just 3 rounds, each 2 minutes long. But everything is amplified. The stakes, the noise, the consequences of a single error. At the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, one underdog competitor stunned the Taekwondo world. Not because of raw talent, but because of nerves of steel. Despite trailing in 2 rounds, he stuck to his mental script, avoided distractions, and waited for his moment. In the final 30 seconds, his opponent grew reckless. One calculated back kick later, and the underdog had turned the match around. That wasn't luck. That was psychological preparation. In Taekwondo, winning isn't always about who kicks harder or faster. Often it's about who can think clearer under pressure, who can stay calm when the crowd roars, the clock ticks down, and everything is on the line. From breathing techniques to visualization, mental scripts to pressure drills, the psychology of a champion is built through discipline and consistency, just like physical skills. The next time you watch a high-level match, don't just watch the kicks, watch the stillness between them. That's where the real battle is won. Thanks for watching. If you found this breakdown insightful, stay tuned for more deep dives into the world of Taekwondo, where strategy meets skill and the mind drives the motion.